Hey, it's Greyson. Um, on my video last week, I've been watching the news and seeing a lot of things that have been coming out very much in line with what was discussed in the last video, how long will the coronavirus shutdowns last? And also there's a supplemental episode after that that's up at fixerpunk.com on the Fixerpunk podcast for your consumption to see a little bit more about the authoritarianism aspect of this and how it has not helped and how we should not take that as being the absolute solution to this problem. But I'm going to get to the part that I didn't really want to get to. I didn't want to do a hate to say I told you so video, but I have to do a hate to say I told you so video with everything I've heard. So I mentioned how this crisis was likely going to, not the crisis itself, but actually, I take that back. The length of the most draconian of the shutdowns was going to get futile sometime around Easter. And that is the date that the president has stated that he wants to quote unquote reopen the country for, is around Easter. And I said that I didn't say they were going to release it by that time. I'm saying that it was going to become futile because enough people, enough churches were going to gather and spread that. There's also a church down in Louisiana, I believe it was, that continued to gather, and the National Guard was supposedly going to be called in. A lot of people have been congregating on the beaches. There are videos of people here in Southern California going out and playing basketball at the beach. And now San Diego County is handing out citations of up to $1,000. Some other jurisdictions in Colorado and Texas, I think, are handing out $1,000 citations too. More enforcement is going into place. Cops are going in and shutting down businesses. So this is something where there's a lot of force by the people of trying to do things in a whatever way to kind of get around these things. That's not right. It's not the appropriate response, certainly at this point where it hasn't even been like a week or so in. But what it's showing is that there is pressure sort of building to take off the strictest of the restrictions. I think certain things like school closures, where the government has more control, event closures, where major organizations have control, requirements for companies to shift their people to work from home, those can last for quite some time as long as they're providing enough supplemental economic support. But keeping like people away from outside, keeping people away from the beach, from the parks, from different workplaces like restaurants, bars, gyms, places like that. That stuff is going to have more trouble holding without substantial economic support. And I also mentioned how small business owners and mid-level elites were going to be kind of driving this, and people are going to try to get around some of these measures. So we actually have a landlord in Pennsylvania who is trying to get around the anti-eviction provisions by going and cutting people's cable. This is called self-help, and in California it's called constructive eviction. I hold a real estate license in the state of California, but I'm not actually practicing. Um, but I do know that here in California, that's called constructive eviction. If you take away any of the privileges of a tenant that's not paying, before you have a judgment and a writ on them, at that point, that's called constructive eviction, which is eviction without a court order, which is illegal. So this landlord, Hyman Properties in Allentown, Pennsylvania, has gotten a lot of flack for it. Leonard French of Lawful Masses, one of my favorite YouTube channels, actually covered this in more depth. But I think there are a lot of these kinds of actions going on. People are not getting relief as quickly as they want to. The credit thing is also kind of still a factor. This landlord says their bank wouldn't extend their payments, which shame on the bank too, but also shame on that landlord for not at least being nice to the tenants. Now he's taking it back. Um, and there's also been some discussion of what kinds of assistance is available for people who are going late on their credit cards. I mentioned the 1030 rule. 10% of the population with a bill 30 days more late or not. There's discussion in the credit cards subreddit in Reddit about different credit card companies and what assistance they're providing. Discover's providing some assistance. Amex is providing some assistance. Citibank has claimed they're providing assistance, but they're not. Discover won't report lates. I think Amex won't report lates. But there's certainly going to be a lot of companies out there that are going to be reporting these 30-day late payments, and they're going to be idiot, stupid landlords, they're greedy capitalists who are going to go out and start pulling people's cable while they're under lockdown just because they're 5 days late for their rent. And all that's going to cause a lot of pressure. And I've also spoken about on the podcast and in the YouTube video about how there's a lot of hope for change, long-lasting change to come out of this. And I'm going to do a separate podcast episode on the concept of flow and how it applies to how disasters cause things to happen more easily in the political realm, and how they can cause change to happen at an accelerated pace, and that this pace is generally not possible, and how that kind of leverage can be used in our own personal lives. But we're also starting to see on trend on Twitter the term general strike, which general strike is basically a strike across like every element of the workforce, driven by a lot of the workers deemed essential who are coming into work, some of them not getting sick leave, things like that. And I wonder if this is just going to be idle online chatter or if this is actually going to be something real. But it's an interesting time to be alive, an interesting time for social movements and for the analysis of culture. At this point, honestly, I have to kind of call this like a Super Bowl for political and social strategy that we're going to be heading into over the next 18, 24 months, perhaps longer, depending on how long these lockouts for, to see all the failures and all the good parts of political and social strategy. All right. Continue to check fixerpunk.com. I'm going to try to get an email sign up on there so you'll get alerted anytime there's a new episode of the Fixer Punk podcast. Of course, like and subscribe here, and I will be in touch with you as best as I can. God bless you. Please stay safe out there. Please stay home as best as possible. Reach out to family members and friends and make sure they're doing well. And I'll see you next time. Okay, you're still here. So just in case I didn't make things abundantly clear, please stay home unless you absolutely need to leave, and please contact your congressional representatives, your senators, your state and local politicians to encourage them to pass policies that will allow people to stay home during this time, because those social and economic pressures are going to determine how well this strategy will work and how well we will bounce back, and most importantly, the kinds of outcomes we are going to see from this in the future, both health-wise and then also the various health-related sequelae of social implications of what is going on here. So please stay home and encourage your political leaders to do what is necessary to keep everybody safe right now. Thank you so much.